Okay, wow. It's very early this morning. I'm usually still in bed at this time, so I don't know if I sound a little sleepy, but thank you so much, everybody, for having me today. I have to admit, I'm a little bit nervous because, see, I don't go on stage very often. As our wonderful MCs, say, I'm actually a writer most of the time, and we writers, we like to stay backstage. And as a musical writer, even more, I like to just let my actors go on stage and do, like let them take the spotlight. So when I was first invited to give this TED Talk, my first impulse was, oh my God, no, going on stage is scary. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had to do this. And why? Because if you look at most musicals, right, a lot of musicals feature characters who have to go out of their comfort zones. They are normal people, just like me and probably most of you, who are faced with scary situations. Like if we take a look over there, like the first one, The Phantom of the Opera, that's about this girl who has to suddenly confront this crazy masked musical stalker person. There's The Greatest Showman, where Hugh Jackman has to run a circus to support his family. I mean, wow. There's Les Miserables, probably the most depressing one of all, where all these poor French people have to deal with revolution and love and poverty and so many things. And then we have Cats, which actually to this day I still have no idea what Cats is about. That movie was a bit of a catastrophe, but you get my point. The point is, in most musicals, the characters have to step up and face their problems. They have to confront their problems head on. And I thought to myself, how can I write about characters being brave on stage if I myself am not willing to step on and do it? So that's why I'm here today, even though I am a little bit nervous. But here's the thing, another thing that I've learned from musicals. It's that no matter what they go through, no matter, even if they have to go through hell, things always turn out good for the characters in the end. The characters always grow, not in a way maybe that they may want, but always in a way that they may need. See, ladies and gentlemen, musicals have been a huge part of my life for a very long time. I've been very lucky to have written 3 musicals and have staged 3, well, the same musicals, but I have staged them as well. And doing all this, I've learned a lot of important lessons. Okay, first of all, you sort of must be thinking, why do you like musicals so much? Aren't they strange? People don't burst into song and dance in the middle of, life. But I think that's what makes them so interesting, because they are so larger than life. Even as a kid, I was interested, I just would go to the cinema. I think like most people, I started with Disney, because, who doesn't like a Disney musical? And there was something magic about them, the characters, the music, the emotions, the passion. I think my first crush was probably Belle from Beauty and the Beast. But the thing I like best about these musicals, no matter what problems they had, the characters just need to sing some sort of song, and by the end of the song, they have the answer to their problems. If only life were like that, right? So after a lifetime of sort of appreciating musicals, I thought to myself, well, I got to start making them as well. And I started with short ones, basically. I started the KL PAC, the KL Performing Arts Center. They had this festival called the Short and Sweet Festival, where you could create your own 10-minute musicals. So I joined, I had a blast, but after a while, the itch just grew stronger. And I thought to myself, I have to write a full-length musical. But when a lot of people heard that, I think my family especially, they were like, are you crazy? Do you know how long musicals take to write? How much money you need? How much planning, Yeah, so for all those out there, I don't know if any of you, are interested in, doing musicals to become rich. But if you do, here's some advice. Don't. Musicals are great, but there are a lot of easier ways to make money. Can they be profitable? Yes, if you plan them correctly. Are they fun? Oh, yes. But are they difficult? Oh boy, yes, take it from me. Now, I think some of you don't believe me. I see some of you at the back, rolling your eyes, like, Hey, what's so difficult about a musical? You just get a bunch of people on stage, sing and dance. I could do that, What's the problem? Well, yes, that is true. But musicals take a ton of organization, They have everything from, like renting the venue alone, like a place like this, wow, that's going to cost a lot. You have to find actors, musicians, directors, choreographers, stunt people, and all these people need to be paid. You need publicity, you need choreographers, you need to build props, you need to build costumes, effects, lighting, sound. It takes a village to do these musicals. And medium scale musicals can take from tens to hundreds of thousands of ringgit. And let's not even talk about Broadway scale musicals. There's a story that, Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, to finance the musical Cats, he mortgaged his house. And, thank goodness that musical did well. Also, thank goodness he wasn't financing the movie Cats, because that was a disaster. But yes, anyway, moving on. Getting a musical needs a lot of organization, And I, self-confess, I am terrible at organization. I'm the sort of person who, if I'm supposed to organize like a surprise birthday party for someone, I will create a WhatsApp group and put that person in the group. Yeah, I do that sort of thing. But the one thing I learned about musicals that I feel applies in life, is that you never have to do anything on your own. See, in life, it's impossible to know everything, but you can always find people to help you. Like, for example, you see, although I love musicals, I'm terrible at composing music. But I knew people who could. So, to compose musicals, I ended up calling all my old friends, and I found my old friend from uni who, was this big lawyer by day who wrote songs by night, like some very strange superhero. And she said, yeah, sure, I'll help. For a musical director, I found my old friend from church. The point I'm trying to make here is that a lot of us, we are blessed with wonderful connections, with amazing friends from all aspects of our lives. And sometimes they will help you. All you need to do is ask. And if we all get together and pool our talents, what magic we could do. So, anyway, I got all my team together. Wonderful people. Technical difficulties, And so they agreed, I don't know how I managed to convince this amazing, wonderful bunch of people to get together, but we did, and we decided to work. And they came to me and said, okay, Terence, we'll work on your musical. And I said, great. And he said, what's your musical about? And I said, let me get back to you. You see, when it comes to musicals, right, the story is one of the most important parts other than the music. The story needs to have natural parts where you can have singing and dancing. Some shows, some stories will make fantastic plays or movies, but if you add music, it all becomes strange. Like, imagine, something like Jurassic Park, the musical, with singing T-Rexes. Wait, no, that's an amazing idea for a musical. I should go back and write that after this. But the point is, you have to find a great story for a musical. And I thought, and I couldn't think of any. But one evening, I had dinner with a friend who was this lawyer in a firm. And this lawyer was having a difficult time, basically, because her boss was being a bit of a jerk, and you had so much work, and she wanted to take an MC, but the boss was like, no, you have too much work. I don't care if you are sick. I tell you, even if you died, I would find a way to bring you back to life just to finish your work. And my first thought was, wow, your boss is terrible. But my second thought was, oh my God, that's the idea for my musical. And my friend was like, I'm telling you my problems and you're turning them into a musical? And I was like, yeah, sorry, but thanks, you're invited to the show. And from that, we had the idea, and the Working Dead musical was born. So in case if you haven't seen it, we staged it in 2009. It's about zombies in the office with singing and dancing. It's about overwork and work-life balance and all that sort of thing. So when we first staged this, a lot of people came up to me and they had only one thing to say, and it was, are you crazy? Because, look at that, what the hell was that, right? A lot of people thought it had something to do with, the the show, The Walking Dead. Some people thought it was a horror movie. But the biggest problem that I guess we had was that we were new. You see, this was a Terence musical. I mean, who was that? If it was, an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, a Stephen Sondheim, Lin-Manuel Miranda, maybe you would go and see it. But would you go and see a show by somebody you didn't know? Yeah, a lot of experts said it was probably going to be a tough sell. And, I was not an expert. I was far from it. So I decided to go on with it. But another thing I learned from this whole experience is that knowledge and experience, yes, they're great, they're very useful. But there is also a great power in being a beginner. Because when you have experience, you've never tried anything like this before, you look at something with fresh eyes and you do things that, most people might never even try. Like, for example, there was one time, we went to this, spoiler alert. So anyway, as I was saying, we went to this social media portal who had over hundreds of thousands of followers. And they agreed to, post our story on their Insta stories. And the moment we did that, my friend who was in PR said, she called me up, she was like, hey, how did you do that way? Usually, they don't advertise theater stories. But I was like, oh, I didn't know. I just asked and I said yes. So the thing I'm trying to say is, value being a beginner because, sometimes it's more of a blessing than it's not. Of course, don't disregard the experts completely because in some ways they were right, A lot of people hadn't heard of us and this made it difficult to find financial sponsors. A lot of people, they just saw the word dead in the title, they're like, Choi, no, we don't want anything to do with this. And this made me a bit worried, you see, because apart from ticketing, financial sponsors are how we fund the musical. If we can't find any sponsors, we could lose a lot of money. Of course, when I look back, what I should have done was secure the money and then start the show. But again, beginner, naive. So, worried, all that sort of thing. And I started having sleepless nights with all the planning and all that sort of thing. I wondered how are we going to pull this off? And part of me just wanted to cancel the whole thing. But somehow, I don't know, something in me just said that this was worth pursuing. So we went on, and we went on, and we went on. And yes, we had problems. Things didn't always go well, but we always got through them. It's like, I remember one incident. There was this show. We had less than 10 people buy tickets for that night. And we were like, oh gosh, this is bad. But just a few hours before the show, one of our team members, she called up all her friends from university. Some of them, I think, didn't know what a musical was. I think some were foreign students, they could barely speak English. But they all turned up to support us, and I will forever be grateful for that. Looking back, I'm quite amazed that we managed to pull it off, but we did. And I have only my team to thank because they were wonderful. Yeah, they pulled everything off. And I remember the opening night was one of the scariest experiences of my life because I remember seeing all the audience, everybody, and thinking, did I just waste so much money and time doing something that nobody would like? And let me tell you, it was a scary experience. But thankfully, the show went well. We got applause, our reviews were good, and in the end, we sold out 7 shows, and our final shows, there were so many people turning up that we even had to turn people away. The show even won a couple of awards, as mentioned, but that was just the icing on the cake. And so everything went well for a while, and then it came for the moment of truth. The ticket proceeds were in. Did we make enough money to cover profits? And I was scared, and did we? And the answer was no. We were so close, but it overshot the budget by just a little bit. We had covered about 85%, but there was just a little bit more that we couldn't. And I became quite sad because I wondered, had this been worth it? Had we, been all this trouble just to lose in the end? And I talked to a friend of mine who was an experienced theater director. I told him, and he said, it's very normal for businesses, to lose money in the beginning. And sometimes, it's your first time. You're probably going to fail at a few things. And I was a bit I was still a little sad. But he said to me, Terence, okay, think about this for a while. How long do you think it will take to recoup that money? And I said, probably a few years. And he said, all right, take those few years, they're going to be hard, but after that, give it a few more years, you'll probably forget that you were in debt. But the memory of having staged a show that people liked and of setting off to complete a dream and you did it, you will remember that forever. And that son of a gun was right, because we solved it. And we went on to do another musical. I know, right? After all that, all that drama, you think we will learn our lesson? But that's the point, we learned from our lesson this time around. We staged another musical called Fortune Cookie, and the musical, this time, when we applied for financial sponsors, thank God they had heard of us this time. So we managed to get financials backing. And you would have thought, after the first musical, everything would have been okay, and we thought so too. But I don't know if you remember, there was this thing in 2020 called the pandemic that came around, spoiled a lot of things, but we learned. We got through it, we sold out 4 shows, we staged it in Singapore, and that was quite an adventure. So, anyways, in conclusion, I've learned a lot from staging musicals. That creativity can be found anywhere, that you never have to do things by yourself, that there is power in being a beginner. But if there's one thing that I hope you take back from this talk, ladies and gentlemen, from me, it's that you are more capable than you ever thought that you could be. You have the capacity in you to do great things, as I, discovered firsthand. So you may not be a character in a musical, but at some point, you're going to have to do something that scares you, and I hope that you take it, because there's no telling what you will achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to step into the unknown singing and dancing, but if you follow the song in your heart, there's no telling the adventures that you will have. Thank you very much for having me, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.